Welcome back, folks, as we address the question or the ingredient of asking the right questions. And then next, we're going to deal with giving the right assistance to people, having looked at making the right assumptions. So, second part here, asking the right questions. Am I building people, or am I building my dream and using people to do it? Manipulation is moving together for my advantage, but motivation is moving together for mutual advantage. The idea that everybody is on board with what you're trying to accomplish. And then, do I care enough to confront people when it will make a difference? Confrontation is probably one of the hardest things that we have to do as leaders. We need to do it in relationships, with the relationships that matter most to us. We often don't do it in all of our relationships, but only those that matter most to us. So we need to confront or clarify the things that we're expecting folks to do so. And when we have to have a confrontation, there are a list or 10 commandments, so to speak, of confrontation that might be good to consider. So with that being said, the first element of confrontation is to do it privately, not publicly. And so the more private you can make it, the more personal it can be. And then secondly, to do it as soon as possible. It's much more natural than waiting. You want to do it as quickly or closely to the issue that brought up the confrontation. Next is to speak to one issue at a time and not create a list. And then again, the more that you can do it immediately, the less there will be of a list. Once you've made your point, don't repeat it. I've had people in my life that tend to perseverate on something. It's like, okay, I heard you. Let's move on. What is it that you want to deal with? Fifth, deal only with the action that the person can change. If it's something about their personality, their style, or whatnot, if they can't change it, then don't bring that up. Try to deal with things that are changeable. And avoid sarcasm. I often bring this up in wedding messages or mere premarital counseling. Often sarcasm can be very dangerous. Yes, it can be funny, but there's often an ounce of truth in there that people start to wonder whether or not you really mean that. Avoid superlatives, that being always and never. Again, it's not an always or it's never, but again, try to avoid those. Present criticism as a suggestion or as a question that folks can understand about how the things that you're bringing up and what they might do differently. And don't apologize for the meeting. You're doing this because it matters, that you care deeply for that individual and how they can improve in the things that they're doing. And then don't forget to compliment. It's always best to sandwich your confrontation with affirmations or encouragement as part of that process. Next, am I listening to people with more than my ears? Am I hearing more than words? And a good thing that we can test ourselves is, am I a good listener? And so we got a little test here that you can kind of grade yourself. Give your 4 to 1 point, 4 being that you do it always, 3 for sometimes, 2 for not very often, or 1 would never. So do I allow the others to finish without interrupting? So as you're having a conversation with something, are you trying to jump in before they actually finish what they're saying? Do I listen between the lines for the actual subject, what it is that they're trying to say? Do I listen for key facts or phrases? Do I repeat for clarification? Do I avoid getting hostile and confrontational? Do I tune out distractions? Am I able to be laser focused on the person that's sharing with you? And again, I recognize these are challenging to me at times early on, so I've learned to address those things as they come. Do I make an effort to seem interested? In other words, giving full attention, at least to whatever the issue is that's being presented to me. Here you go. Here's your scoring. Add up those scorings and see what kind of number you come up with. 26 or better means that you're an excellent listener. 22 to 25 is your average. 18 to 21, there's room for improvement. And if you're less than 17, you got some serious work to do. Some of us might be familiar with James's passage from James 1:19. Be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. Being quick to listen means that you're focusing on that person ahead of you to see what it is that they're trying to say. Better listeners are probably better leaders in most circumstances. Next, ask the right questions in this is, what are the major strengths of this individual? People work best in an area of their strength. So again, where is it that they're serving in their wheelhouse? And if you're spending most of their time there, you don't have to spend most of the time motivating folks. Another good question is, have I placed a high priority on the job? Motivation comes in knowing that what we are doing will make a difference in the lives of the people that we're working with. When they know that, they don't need extra motivation. And so really pointing out how this is making a difference and the role that they're playing is significant. There's a good story about a bricklayer versus someone whose perspective is the building a cathedral. And the story goes is that an inspector came in and saw one guy just kind of methodically grabbing a brick, setting it on, kind of throwing some cement in there, and asking the guy, how's it going? He says, just laying bricks, just keeping the process going. And he rounds the corner, and you see this guy working enthusiastically of grabbing a similar brick, putting some cement down, and asking himself, how's it going? He says, it's going great. He says, awesome, we're building a cathedral. Recognizing he had the bigger picture in mind and what he was doing. He wasn't just laying bricks. He was seeing the big picture about what was going on. Next good question to ask is, have I shown the value that this person will receive from the relationship that we're engaged with? People show up based on the value given and the value received in the context of that relationship. And so we got to raise ourselves the question. It says, who's getting the better deal? If I'm getting a better deal, this can produce complacency and incongruity or ingratitude. If the other person is getting a better deal, this can produce resentment. But if we're getting an equally good deal, this usually produces mutual respect and motivation to keep doing the things that we're doing. So there you go. There's some good questions to be asking with regards to what we're trying to accomplish. Next, we're talking about giving the right assistance to people so that they can do what they're doing, what they've been called to do, and to do it well. It's not how hard this person works, but what they do, what they do, they're accomplishing. I need to help them identify what their strengths are. And when they do, when everybody wins in that circumstance, we're gaining energy from one another's abilities to accomplish what they're trying to accomplish. I must give myself to them in the things that we're doing, to give that a right assistance. Give yourself to the top 20%. You want to give a significant amount of energy and effort to that top 20%. Encourage the many, mentor the few. Be transparent and become a team of things people recognize what they're doing. Matters most. I must give them ownership. People need to know that they have something to say in the process. And when we give everyone a chance for success, excellent environment to work in, that's a key part of that, is they recognize that this is an environment people want to come to. Giving them the right tools to do the job well. Continually training that they feel like there's great value that's coming. And a compelling vision. They see what they're trying to accomplish, and they want to give full effort into doing that. So again, another good question to ask is, how can I make those around me more successful? Giving them the right assistance, asking what tools do they need, what more training they need, clarity on that vision. So by asking those questions, it gives them some direction. Okay, so giving the right assistance, asking the right questions, and making the right assumptions are three critical factors in towards people development. Next thing I want to talk about is developing in people development principles. What kind of principles can we bring to the table to help folks to thrive? Principle number one, people development takes time. This is not an efficient process. It just takes effort and takes a lot of time to develop that. People skills are essential for success. So the most recent survey of Worship Leader magazine, the program, has to do with, do you have appropriate people skills? In working with people, you need to be able to help them accomplish the things that they're accomplishing, and to do it in a way that it's an environment that people want to be a part of. So be a model that people can follow, that they want to be together. I was so blessed in my leadership teams, both in my middle school and high school teams. People loved being together. And so when we created that environment, doing the task and doing the program was not an extra chore. It was just a process, a part of being together. And so people valued that greatly. Actions to be able to pay attention to that accomplish certain results. If I do it, I model it. I do it and you're with me, I mentor. You do it, and I'm with you. You move forward. You do it, and someone is with you. We multiply. And so to recognize when we do things together like this, we're able to accomplish much greater things. Lead others by looking through their eyes. Most people think that their problems are the biggest, their children are the smartest, their jokes are the funniest, and their faults ought to be overlooked. It's all about how we view life and look for ways of opportunity. Here's a quick little story that Maxwell tells back in World War II. A general and his young lieutenant boarded a train in England. The only seats left were across from a beautiful young lady and her grandmother. The general and the lieutenant sat facing the women. As the train pulled out, it went through a long tunnel. For about 10 seconds, there was total darkness. In the silence of the moment, those on the train heard two things: a kiss and a slap. Everyone on the train had his or her own perception of what happened. The young lady thought to herself, "I'm flattered that the lieutenant kissed me, but I'm terribly embarrassed that my grandmother hit him." The grandmother thought, "I'm aggravated that the young man kissed my granddaughter, but I'm proud she had the courage to retaliate." The general sat there thinking to himself, "My lieutenant showed a lot of guts in kissing that girl, but why did she slap me by mistake?" The lieutenant was the only one on the train who really knew what happened. In that brief moment of darkness, he had the opportunity to kiss a pretty girl and to slap his general. Yes, the mode of opportunity. Funny story nevertheless, but again, leading through other people's eyes. Development of people is more successful when we listen well enough to lead through their eyes, relate well enough to communicate with their hearts, work well enough to place tools in their hands, and think well enough to challenge and expand their minds. Leaders must care for people before they can develop them. Point number 5, people developers look for opportunities to build people up. Good leaders must avoid the following: failure to give credit for suggestions, failure to correct grievances, failure to encourage, criticizing someone in front of others, failure to ask people their opinion, failure to inform others of their progress, and showing favoritism. This is not easy. Again, things you need to pay attention to, and these things can cause great harm in terms of developing people. So be aware of where your failures are and help people to hold you accountable. I oftentimes got criticized for favoritism because of who the people I was naturally drawn to. So I had to be very intentional about making sure I was be intentional about folks that I wasn't drawn to, and again, demonstrating care and love in those circumstances. And we all need to pay attention to that. Lastly, the greatest potential for growth of any organization is the growth of its people. So the more energy that you can pour into your people development skills, that fourth level of leadership, the greater success you're going to have in terms of your role as a leader. All right, take a moment to take a look at the prompts for developing your people skills, and we'll chat a little bit about this in class. Thanks for listening.